Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Dirtbag Therapy. Today I'm thrilled to have Latosha Cox on the show. She is the brilliant mind behind Black Girl Sabbatical, a movement dedicated to helping Black women reclaim rest, adventure, and joy on their own terms. Latosha has an incredible perspective on unplugging from the grind, embracing travel as self care, and redefining what it means to take a break. We're going to dive into her journey, the mission of Black Girl Sabbatical, and why stepping away from the hustle is sometimes the most radical thing you can do. Latosha, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be, your first podcast guest during this new year, and during Black History Month. So thank you so much.
Yeah, super fitting. And my birthday month, so
And your birthday month.
it's
So
all coming together.
this is a great celebration month. It was Valentine's Day last week. This is February is a great month.
Perfect. All right. So you've built Black Girl Sabbatical around the idea of healing, joy, rest, and intentional transitions. What's your own journey? How did you go from running a nonprofit to needing a sabbatical and creating a movement around it?
Whew. I want to first say that I never thought that I would land here. As a black woman who's wanted to climb the corporate ladder, right, and provide for my children. And I never thought that I would land to the place of experiencing a toxic work environment, extreme stress, running a nonprofit, to needing a sabbatical, right? This wasn't planned, right? To being a part of a movement, launching a business, right? Like that was not, I'm a type A personality, right? And so I like plans, I like strategic plans, right? I just don't up and jump and do things. And so this was not part of my plan. If you would have asked me like 5 years ago, right, when I had my executive leadership coach, Camille Thomas, to help develop the woman that I am today. So yes, she helped to develop that, but this was like it was helping for me to be the president somewhere of an organization, right? Not for me to leave the workforce and to leave the workforce for 18 months. Short background is that my background is in finances, education, philanthropy, nonprofit. And I used to work at the McKnight Foundation in educational grant making. And so I was in charge of and um, recommending and managing $9 million in grants annually. So that was a place that, as a black woman, I felt that I could show up as my authentic self, right? Including like today, I'm wearing a head wrap, right to work. It was also a place that I could thrive. I was separated and divorced in my 3 years there. So that was tough. That was a tough time for me of navigating being married, buying a house and a dog and two kids and all the things, like, right? And so, but I was able to thrive there. And so I left there to go and, basically be an executive director of a local nonprofit that was a national nonprofit that had like 20 plus different sites all throughout the US. It was a AmeriCorps led and funded program. And I was also alumni of that program as well. And so I was intentionally recruited to, hey, there's an opening, should you come? And I was like, oh, I already knew they wasn't going to pay me enough, for it. But I just was like, I was passionate for the work. And I knew I was signing up for a challenge, but I was not quite sure of the amount of the challenge. And so, yeah, I worked there 13 months. 30 days in, I wanted to quit. 90 days in, I wanted to quit. 5 months in, I was fried,
Mm.
burnt all the way out. But as we worker bees do, and the grind culture has us do, you keep plugging away, right? Until finally I just had to be done. Right? But that's not what I had anticipated, right? We're going to develop ourselves, here for a few years and then we're on to the next. But my body would not.
Yeah, what was going on with your body? And you mentioned, let me back up to you because I had a question pop up in my head. So
Okay.
you said 5 months in, you were burnt out. I guess like when in that position did it really come up like in your head for the first time where you were like, ooh, I'm not sure how much long I can carry on with this, right? Because like we have those thoughts pop up in different jobs, but like we sort of ignore it and we just keep going forward. But when did that first like pop up for you? And then you mentioned like your physical body, like what was going on with that?
Right. Well, I just knew that this wasn't, yes, I took on a new leadership role during the middle of the pandemic, so in May of 2020, right? But what I just knew in that less than 5 months time is that this wasn't thriving. And I had inherited a program that was understaffed. It was previously ran by three, was being ran by two. Well, was two, and then before I came, there was one because the director and another program manager had left. So it was barely holding on by the thread of my friend and the program manager at the time, Francisco. And then a couple of weeks into my new position, Francisco leaves. So then here I come, the only lonely newbie on the block, even though I'm familiar with the program. And I was like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. This is where are the supports?
Right, kind of a perfect storm, not like anti-perfect storm of like setting you up almost.
Right? And not for success,
Right, that's what I
which
mean.
where I've been in previous places that I have been set up for success. So that's why that ring of that bell of like, oh, we want to quit. And I did tell my boss that day that, hey, I want to, I thought about quitting today. And so she gave me a bottle of wine that was left over from a fundraiser and told me to go home and, drink this wine and have a bubble bath.
Yes.
Right? But bubble bath doesn't having a bubble bath is not what you need in order to thrive inside of a toxic work environment. I don't care how many bubble baths. Next thing you know, I could have turned into an alcoholic, which a lot of people were turning into alcoholics, right, during the pandemic,
Yep.
right? And so that's not a positive way to cope. But over the months, I am experiencing headaches, stress within my shoulders, just like anxiety in the body, extreme like fatigue. So my body was just telling me this wasn't right, right? And then also like I'm being real irritable and snappy at my kids. That whole summer of 2020, I worked like 50 and 60-hour weeks every day as the only person. I did hire a couple of my second years to help, you know, um, the process of recruiting other AmeriCorps people to be a part of the next cohort. But it was the overworking that was taking over my body. And I did push on till March of that next year. And I texted my boss and I said, you know what? I'm going to take some time off. I took a week off, like a week and some days. And I went up to Duluth. I said, I'm going to go up to Duluth and try to kumbaya. And hopefully, when I come back, I don't put in my resignation, right? So that was like the fourth time until I still pushed on, right? Until, right? But like, we be knowing it in our bodies and our intuitions,
Hmm.
but the grind culture, it just has us stuck,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
and I think I mean you and I both are pretty active on LinkedIn. Like the banners that you see and the pouring out of like I don't know if you see this too, but I see it on mine, and I feel like you probably have more connections than I do, and it is like overwhelming to see the amount of people that have been searching for jobs. So like that's the other scary part too. Like if somebody themselves listens to this and they get motivated or sort of inspired to take their own sabbatical, it's like I mean we'll get into those questions. So maybe I don't we don't
Well,
want to get
well,
into
yeah,
it right this second.
Well, yeah, that, and then we'll talk about like how at the end, how like this sabbatical has, helped me in another life transition to go back to W-2 life, right? I just believe that like we need the rest to pour into ourselves so that way we can continue to do the work that we've been called to do.
Absolutely. So you've navigated so many big life transitions, like you've kind of mentioned, career changes, entrepreneurship, even post-divorce life. Was there one pivotal moment that made you realize I need to help other women do this too?
Well, while I was on my sabbatical, that was the first time that like there was no title. And so, yeah, I'm active on LinkedIn now, but before I wasn't. But I'm very active and social in the community. And was very, within my Facebook page. And so it was a shock to the world for me to go on a sabbatical. I think the first shock would have happened is that I got divorced, right? But I'm a firm believer that to get rid of things that no longer serve you, and so I will throw a marriage in the trash. I would throw a job in the trash. I would throw a contract in the trash, right? We need to know our boundaries to say no or hell no to
Yes.
some things, right? And so while I'm on sabbatical, I'm meeting all kind of different people and I'm describing myself like, hey, I'm, like everyone has titles, where they're working or what they're doing. And I'm just like, I'm working on me. I'm on a sabbatical. I'm on a Black Girl Sabbatical. I'm the former executive director of learning and leadership, like, right? But then I didn't want to be attached to that job. So we gotta, right? But I realized that I have experienced so many, like just big life transitions, and I've done it well. Some of it may have been strategic, right? And then some of it just going with your gut, with knowing that it's time to pivot. And so I think I wrote down in last year that like in the last like 8 years I have gone through like six different like career pivots. I mean six different transitions. Right? And over the course of my life, like transitioning from being being a mom, being a wife, being a mom of two, working in a different, different jobs, leaving jobs, entrepreneurship, deciding on a divorce, deciding, right? And I just realized that not everybody has the skills to do that, and why not me help others, because I believe in coaching and consulting and trainings and professional development, and I've used that, and I'm really grateful for McKnight for paying over $13,000 for me to have a previous executive leadership coach to help me in some, especially in the transition of a divorce. Like I needed someone to hold my hand,
Mm.
right? And so I realized, and I also had a Black Girl Sabbatical coach too that I paid. And I just like, no, I believe in reaching out and having supports in hard times. And I can do that for others.
Heck yeah. So important. Like, I work with kids professionally, and I talk about that all the time. Like, what are your support systems? And I think it kind of sometimes goes over their heads, but and I think as adults we sort of figured that too. So I think that's really cool what you're doing. So you sort of talked about the bottle of the wine and the go home, take a bubble bath. What's the worst advice you've ever heard about self-care? Crystals, journaling when you're broke, maybe offering somebody a bottle of wine, telling them to go just take a bath. It'll.
All of that, of what I've mentioned. I've also have heard, people would say, oh, just go take a nap. Take a nap. It's more than sleep. Right? I think what I was surprised to not hear enough is that we deserve rest. We deserve a break. It's okay to pause. Right? I even had a conversation with my mom and I was like, yo, mom, like, she's a boomer. I'm a proud millennial. And I was like, yo, mom, I would have loved for you to model self care more. I'm reflecting on my life and I told her, I was like, yo, that one time you went to Vegas? Why didn't you go more?
Right.
She went on a girls trip, right? With a couple of her friends. And I was like, like, why weren't you having the conversations with us? Right? Or like, like I remember my mom always, she loves flowers. So she'd buy herself flowers, right? And then she would hang them upside down and dry them out. And then I don't know what she would do with them, right? But like, I just remember her that like flowers and bubble baths were her self care thing. Right? And so for me at McKnight, I've, had started, a self-care routine, self-care, self-love routine of going on my own annual self-care trip. So in 2018, I went to Vegas. 2019, I went on my first cruise. 2020, I was supposed to go to Mexico, but it was the pandemic. And then I'm stuck in this job. Right? I was able to bless myself to go to Jamaica twice during my sabbatical. Right? But yeah, we just don't. It's where is it modeled?
Right.
Where is it modeled for you to show up for yourself and not show up for yourself more to avoid burnout?
Right. Yeah, I think about, I guess what comes to mind for me, I mean, I'm an educator. And even with like societal norms of like what people think about educators and oh, you get summers off and oh, you get Christmas break and spring break and all these things. And it's like, but when you're on during a school year, if you've never worked in a school, like people don't understand how taxing and draining it is. And even between breaks, like maybe it's only been a month since winter break. Well, like this February is like and January are like a deep dark hole. It's so like stressful and just like a slog. So I guess I've been really open with like coworkers and modeling. I also have a mental health background. I was a school counselor before I became an administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I've always been like open to it and trying to model it even for like colleagues about taking mental health days. I just think that's just part of it. Or like how people aren't open to talking about certain things that are taboo in our culture, in our American culture. I think that's definitely one of them, which is unfortunate. But I'm hoping more people are just open about it. And we haven't always had supervisors that, as you know, are like open to. I guess you just don't really say anything to them. You just say, "I'm taking a sick day. I don't feel well." That's all you need to say. Not "I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking a mental health day." But how cool would it be if you could just be like, "I'm taking a mental health day. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
need right now for myself."
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the most chaotic thing you've ever done in the name of rest and relaxation that completely backfired?
When you sent me this question,
I know, I got pretty kind of like outrageous, but I'm like, I want to ask fun questions. I want to make it fun too.
you did. You're the first podcast that I came with questions. So and I love them. And I appreciate our partnership in going through them and me editing them and me like, nope, not gonna talk about that. Like,
Yep,
yes, so
yep.
I'll
I know.
talk
I'm like,
about
I'm just
this.
gonna float it, put it out there, and then I'm gonna just give her whatever she's comfortable with. If she's comfortable with going into it, great. If not, we'll take it out, or she
Right.
can modify.
Right. And I loved it because I was like, oh my gosh, jeez, these are some great questions, right? And so I immediately thought of, and I'm gonna do a post about it. I've been thinking about it for the last like 3.5 years to post about it. But the most chaotic thing that ever came to me in the name of trying to get rest and relaxation is I got a speeding ticket on the way to rest and was on probation for a year.
Oh no. How fast were you going? To be put on probation?
So like a couple months into my sabbatical, I went. I know I just needed a break. I just needed a break. I had moved my ex-husband back in the house right afterwards. I was like, I can't mother. You gotta have the mother, father. You're gonna have to just do it all because I just can't.
It's your turn, boo.
I just can't do it. And I was like, I need to get away. I need to get away out of this house from the kids, from everybody. And so I just went on like Travelocity or Orbitz or one of those places, and I was like, where can I go? Where can I go that's not that far? I'm like, I already just was at Duluth this year. Ooh, Rochester. I haven't been to Rochester. So that Saturday morning, I'm up. I'm like, Rochester it is. Oh, I'm just gonna, within my budget, which was like a couple $100. Where can I find for less than a couple $100 that I can go, that I can just go get rest and rejuvenate? And I packed my things, and I'm like, I'm gone. I'm gone till like Monday. I'll be back to pick my daughter up from school, right? But I just gotta go. I'm speeding. Why am I speeding on the way to rest? It's that capitalistic society, right? That speeding ticket taught me, yo, Tosh, you're on a sabbatical. You don't have to go the speed of lightning.
Mm,
You don't have to be fast like a cheetah. You can just do
right.
do you could slow down. You could be a turtle. It's turtle season for you, Tasha. And I got the ticket, and the officer, the state trooper, asked me where I was going, and I was like, I'm just going to Rochester to a hotel. He gave me the speeding ticket anyway. He did lower it so that it wouldn't go out crazy on my insurance. But I got on probation because I'm like I didn't want it to go on my insurance. So I was like, okay, I'll just go to court. I'll pay a smaller fine. I won't speed for a year. So yes, sign me up for probation.
Have you sped since? Maybe just
Hey,
just a teeny bit.
just a teeny bit, but it really helped me at the beginning to slow down.
Mm,
You could be a turtle, Tasha. And why am I going somewhere fast just so that I can be at peace, be in quiet, eat good food? Because I messaged one of my friends who lived down there and asked because I didn't want to go somewhere and have a great time, and the food was like
mm,
that messes up your whole experience.
mm.
So I messaged him about food, all great food choices. So I really appreciate his recommendations. Just to rest.
Yeah, you were ready, you know.
I was ready to jump in it, but I didn't have to.
Hmm.
I didn't have to go at a faster space to
Right,
get there.
right. I think maybe the thought of like the destination that's where your peace is living and you got to get there quick, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe in reality we all could take that in and be like, hey, you can have the mindset to start that with where you're at right now too. You can make that choice. Hopefully. How do you balance the do nothing part of a sabbatical with the reality that bills still exist? Like this is a really tough one. I'm sure there's like tons of people that would love to take a sabbatical and then the reality sort of hits. They think about it for 10 seconds and they're like there's no way I could actually do this.
I think regardless if we set ourselves up to do a sabbatical or not, we do have to practice more. It's not really a balance. We do have to practice more with doing nothing. That we don't have to fill up our weekends with back to back. Just recently, a Facebook post reminded me of, one year, like I would, on a Saturday and Sunday, I would have two or three engagements. Somebody's baby shower, right? A lunch date with somebody else, and then I'm hanging out with somebody, for like happy hour, right? Or like, and so I'm all like, over the years I was working on, I had another post. I was like, oh, we're only doing one activity a day, right? But we need to practice the doing nothing, the being still, the meditating, the not filling our calendars up with stuff because that's what I was really good at. The just being.
Yeah, I feel that. Sorry, I had a sirens go by and both dogs were howling like they're both a siren too. I had myself on mute luckily.
No worries.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think one thing I think about in living in New York City when people come and visit, they want to fill up the day with everything, which is rightfully so. They're visiting. My mom has come to visit several times and I think she's got this. She's been here so many times now where she doesn't need to fill the whole calendar up. Plus, she's been retired forever, right? She's been on her permanent sabbatical for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
I love when she visits, she's down for anything. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just do like one or two things and then we'll just like relax. And I'm like, that's such a great. I use that in my own life, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
especially on weekends when, we're only getting a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool to hear that that's sort of like your take and mindset on the sabbatical piece, especially with
Mm-hmm.
it being so like longer term. I get it even with 2 days off. I get some sort of like anxiety about, oh well, I'm having a really restful, lazy day, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just sitting here. What else should I be doing? And my brain just starts to go and go and go, and then I feel guilty for just like sitting and when I should be resting. It's okay to do that.
Right?
Yeah, we should totally have permission to do that as much as we need.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go into the confessions round. I love this. What's the weirdest place? Did you highlight? No, it's all of these, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All of them. Okay. What's the weirdest place you've ever had a self-care moment? So like crying in the work bathroom, wine field vision boards at 3 a.m. Tell us about that.
I would say a lot of crying. I think when you're in survival mode or go mode, it doesn't really allow space for you to process feelings and emotions in real time. Right? I never had the opportunity to like grieve my divorce because we got to be a provider and pay this mortgage and all these daycare and all the things. Right? And so I just think that we don't allow ourselves to have self care moments. Right? We don't really allow ourselves to embrace and crying when we need to. And some of like the weirdest places that I've cried is in bathrooms. I'm going to post about this too because I started to take pictures of me crying as a vulnerable moment to myself. And like that was there's a picture that I'm going to post about it or in or you know or crying in my car, and I think also being more vulnerable and crying in front of my kids.
Hmm.
My kids have seen me cry more now than ever. And it also opens up the floodgates for them to be vulnerable, but then also for them to see me as a human being. Because what I needed to see is that to see my mom as a human being, right? She's not a robot, right? And that yes, we may make motherhood look so great, like we're just doing it all, but reality is like we're a juggler and we're just hoping none of the balls or eggs. The cost of eggs are really expensive right now, right? So we're
Don't drop
hoping
those.
we're hoping that we don't drop an egg,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's real. That modeling is so like it's okay to be emotional. And it's, I'm a millennial too. Parents are boomers. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that. It's like, what else are we changing that we're not we're changing the cycle of certain things that our parents did that we wish we would have seen in them. So that's beautiful that you're doing that. Even just something as, I guess it's not simple. Like it's not always comfortable to cry around people or your kids, right? Because again, like society and that hustle culture, like don't show your emotion, keep moving forward, keep trucking along, keep hustling. There's not weakness in crying. If anything, there's a lot of strength in crying and showing that emotion. What's one
Yeah.
thing, yeah,
Go ahead.
what's one thing people think will be healing on a sabbatical, but actually really like sucks?
Therapy.
It's hard. It's not comfortable
Therapy.
either.
Therapy is hard. It is uncomfortable. Yesterday, I just completed my 200 therapy session
Wow.
over the course of 34 months. In March, me and my or March, April, me and my therapist will celebrate our 3-year anniversary, right? Thank you for the
Yes.
snaps and all the things.
Amazing.
And a couple weeks ago, I posted like 200.
I think I saw that. I hope I liked it. If I didn't, I'm gonna get off our call and
Clock
go
it,
like
lock
it
it,
right away.
right? Because in reality is that I haven't done 200 hard things ever.
Hmm.
I got divorced once. That was one huge hard thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm all like, I haven't walked 200 days at a time, I haven't drank 200 waters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I have done like a 40-day water challenge, which is all water, right? But it wasn't 200 days.
That's a lot of
You
days.
know, it's a lot of days, and that's 200 plus hours and I thanked my therapist of holding space for me, right? 200 plus times that I showed up for myself, right? And it was hard because, with your background, what you know is that it's uncomfortable, but like you're doing the work in between the sessions. You just don't just show up to the therapy and just think that all the things. You gotta in between sessions, you gotta do your own work,
Mm-hmm.
continue the work. And for most of this time, I, had therapy twice a week. I think our first few months it was like once a week. And I told her, hey, I need to speed up this healing. What's the maximum insurance will pay
There you
for?
go, speeding again.
Right? Because I'm all like, this can take forever. I mean, I came to her and I'm 42 now, but I was 39. And I said, I'm coming to you with like 39 years of just trauma in my life. So at the rate of just going once a week, am I gonna make it at 50? Right? But it was so tough. And it was a few months ago I texted her and I was like, I don't know if this healing journey is worth it. um, and then we had our session. I was like, I know I text you that, but reality is that it's been the best decision that I could have made. The best decision that I could have made for as a family that I model it. So like I have a daughter who's a senior, and so she's been with her therapist for like 2.5 years, and then my other daughter has been for like 2 years, right? And so, like, it's not just Tasha's going to therapy, it's all of us are healing for all the things, or and that it's okay to not be okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay for people to talk to other people that aren't friends and family. Like, we could talk to experts, we could talk to a non-biased person about, like, if life is sucks, or also all my wins. I share that with my therapist too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm always like, who wouldn't want to get to know themselves better and like make their lives as comfortable as possible and gain like really cool badass tools to like help you navigate through difficult situations, just everyday situations, you
Hmm.
know. That's awesome. Be honest, you actually believe in work-life balance, or is it just a scam to keep us from quitting?
There's no balance. We can try all we want. There's really not a balance. I just remember way before this, when I worked at my credit union, I just was always trying to find balance. Finished college after almost 17 years. I'm a first generation college graduate from Augsburg and here in Minnesota. Thank you. And there was no roadmap before me of anyone who's done it, so that it could take less time, right? Which is what I'm trying to model, so that it takes my daughters and other people that I inspire less time to do different things. But I just, and I worked, I was on and off. I've switched schools from starting, at St. Kate's as a nursing major, completed all my prereqs, got into nursing school, realized that wasn't what it was after a year. So, like, I've the queen of transitions. We're not gonna do that. We done got so much debt. Such a disappointment to my mom. She just almost died when I'm a junior in college, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not gonna be a nurse. What? Your whole life I heard that you're gonna go to school to be a nurse, or that you're gonna go to college. And what you mean you're not gonna go and do this profession? But when I was at Augsburg, I worked full time and I went to school full time. At the time, they had a weekend college program, and I had college scholarships. That's the only reason why I went full time, which was like 2 classes, and we'd meet like for like every other week for like 7, 8 classes, and then we'd have a break and then another 7, 8 classes. So it was, accelerated learning, a lot of it, And I just remembered, like, okay, there will be times that I'm on the B Dean's list, but then I'm struggling with sales and service at work. And then, like, not really seeing my kid, right? Or there's times I'm showing up as a great mom, right? But the other things are falling away, or that I'm killing it in sales and service, but I have to get it incomplete for one of my classes because I didn't have enough time, or whatever chaotic situation that was happening didn't allow me to finish my classwork
Mm.
in the time. And so I don't believe in work-life balance. What I believe is, and what I've been really modeling in this season, is intentionally being present when you're present. I realized that when I was juggling all the eggs, and my children would talk to me about different things, and I wouldn't remember because I'm doing dishes and doing dinner, thinking about, got to pay the mortgage. Did I get your treat for class? You know what I'm saying, for your birthday? We got teacher appreciation week coming up, so my brain was not intentionally present. And especially my oldest, she would just say, like, Mom, I told you that, da da da. And I was all like, well, what was I doing when you told me that? Well, you were folding laundry and it's not, I said. And so during my sabbatical, I told my kids, look, I need you to be all like, hey, Mom, can we talk? I need you to, we need to connect, that I'm giving you the time, right? And then I will retain and be intentionally present for you, right? Or when I'm leading a workshop, I'm intentionally at that, at the workshop. Or right now, I'm intentionally here present with you, recording a podcast. So I think what we need to really focus about is that, wherever place that we're at, for us to really lean in and the joy of that moment, instead of our brain that's just trying to balance all the other things that we're not a part of, or we're not there, you know?
Yeah, I'm stealing that. As much as we hear that too, like I just did yoga this morning, so I guess I'm sort of in that mindset because when I was like laying in shavasana, I'm like thinking about all these things. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. All I need to do is just lay here and breathe.
Right?
That's it.
Right?
If you could design the ultimate Black Girl Sabbatical retreat, no budget limits, what would that look like?
I really appreciate this question because it had me in like dreamland, imagination land, creativity land, which is where I really, really love. And I'm looking forward to it in the future to like host a Black Girl Sabbatical like retreat. And so I've thought about this over the last few years. And Jamaica is my happy place. And so it would be there. There are a couple of hotels, resorts that I really like there. And it would be an experience of just resting. I've been on quite a few retreats, over 20 in the last 3.5 years. Most of them self funded, some of them scholarship, most of them self-directed, here, some out in Wisconsin. So I've been a little bit all over, you know, and the retreat wouldn't be bogged down. I've been to some and they're like every minute of the day is got something going on. And I'm like, that's not the definition of a retreat. You're retreating back from whatever it is.
All of that. Yeah.
All of every day, life. And so it would be filled with, rest and of course, somatic different practices of like sound baths and yogas and Reiki. I've shared that experience on my Instagram. And just great comfort food and sisterhood, with just a lot of people from all walks of life, women that desire rest or that they intentionally took time out to be present for themselves.
That's making me like want to take my own retreat. My partner and I have been, it's been, obviously we're in the throes of winter and I guess, yeah, we've been craving vitamin D and we're not like huge beach people, but I think every once in a while that's a nice like thought to have. And of course it happens more often in the winter. So that all sounds really nice. Okay, some final round questions here. What's your go-to I need a break but I can't quit yet survival tactic? So speaking to all those poor folks on LinkedIn that are either, they have the banner up and they quit already and they don't have anything and they haven't had anything for a while, or they're in a job looking to pivot and they're kind of like, I need a break, but I can't possibly quit.
Well, I think the thing that they should do is take PTO. Look at your PTO bank. I did a survey last year on LinkedIn asking, like, what's your PTO balance? I was disgusted to know that there were so many people that had like PTO balances of like over like 300. Yes, I asked my mom that last year. I was so pissed. I've been encouraging her, I've been inspiring her to use more time, to do nothing. Mom,
health days, I'm telling you.
You can if we were to take the time to intentionally plan our mental health days, we wouldn't have to have crisis ones. Because I've had my share of mental health days and they were forced upon because I had a migraine that day, right? So I'm forced to have a mental health day and it's not a productive day because I'm with my shades on, with my curtains closed, in the bed all day, not eating, not living a joyful life. Right? And so I told my mom and I posted, about it, is that you can't take your PTO like with you if you were to, get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? The other thing is that I was like, you can't even beneficiary me this. Like, you can't gift me in money.
Yeah, right? How awesome would that be? Like, anybody working a job has 300 days of PTO. They could just, no matter what job you're in, they could just give it to you. Wouldn't that be? Obviously, we don't want somebody to die and then send them their 300 days, but like, how cool would that be? That'd be really cool.
Right? And so yeah, I was just, and I encourage people like, hey, do your PTO. And I was like, I'm gonna hold you accountable. So a couple of those people, I like followed up with them in the inbox, like, what days are you off? Coming up. And one of my friends, she worked at Augsburg and She had accumulated so much PTO that they penalized her for it, and she wasn't able to accrue more PTO until she used her current PTO. And I said, that shouldn't even be a policy because your boss and the department should allow you space for you to use the previous time. So now you're working and you're not accumulating a benefit that's owed to you.
Right. That seems
So
like
that's
it
the
should
right,
be illegal.
right? And so like, PTO, especially if it's paid, like take a step back. You can't quit, but you can give yourself a break.
Mm. Yeah. Amen to that. Oh my goodness. That's wild. Let's see. If a listener is stuck in a soul-sucking job, what's the first thing they should do tonight to start their exit plan?
Well, I shared about taking PTO, but I'm currently marketing. This is my third year in a row. My signature workshop, The Art of a Black Girl Sabbatical, money, mental health, and more. And if you're in a soul-sucking job, tonight I offer you to register for this workshop. I have it on a Black History Month and Women History Month special for $97 instead of $197. So it's a 50% off or more discount for people to learn the tools. More than what I'm telling you here. In the workshop, there's a Q&A where I spill all the tea. I even pull up like what my bank account balance and all the different things of like how I financially did it. There's different benefits that you don't have when you're a W-2 employee. And also like I have a Q&A for 30 minutes, so you get all in the hot seat and ask all the questions that you've been wanting to know. And there will be time that you can actually map out and see what that looks like. To even start your own, Black Girl Sabbatical.
Amazing. I like that you said you shared your financials too. I think that's like, again, sort of a thing that's can be really taboo that people don't want to talk about. But having that transparency for those folks that are going to be joining you in that's huge. That's really awesome.
Well, yeah, and I pride myself on being very transparent, very vulnerable, very authentic in all of my workout that I do in social media, workshop and so forth. And like this is an opportunity that's coming up on March 15th, a Saturday morning for women to just get in their PJs, grab their tea, their breakfast, grab their journal, right? That they, need in this season. And so that's why when I created the workshop 3 years ago, when I launched my business full time, I was like, what do I want to talk about? That's why it's called Art of a Black Girl Sabbatical. Money, mental health, and more. I have been really grateful, and it was the privilege for me to go on a sabbatical. And you working in higher ed, sabbatical is a higher ed term, right? And the professors that I've known that have went on sabbatical, well, you have to work there for so many years. And then when you do apply for a sabbatical, you got to get it approved. And then what kind of research are you doing? So you're basically trading your professor job of teaching to do some research over here, and you're required to come back with a project.
It's just like I'm trying to take some time and I'm required to do more work on my sabbatical. That doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think in New York City public schools, there is sabbatical like offered. You have to put in, I think, 7 years of work and then get it approved, and it's 6 months. And then I think it's double for a full year. I think you have to put in 14 years then to have a full year approved, and then you do have to do a project. You do have to do some sort of research, I believe. But your bosses have to approve it. And I know folks that have tried to take some of that and they haven't gotten it approved. So it's not like a guaranteed. I think that should be a guaranteed thing. If you've put in your time and whatever, then
if you put in your time, but it's the roadblocks, right? That happen. And I have in philanthropy, there's a organization that allows you to have a sabbatical after 10 years, right? So one of my friends, she took a sabbatical when I was on sabbatical, and you got 3 months. And so I was like, that's good for you, but you could have fucking died in that 10 years.
That's a lot. Yeah, 10 years is a long
10 years to get 3 months?
Yeah.
You've been working there enough that you could do your own summer sabbatical.
Right.
Halfway through it.
with PTO, maybe 300 days of PTO.
Right, you've accumulated so much PTO in your 10 years
Mm.
that you could have done,
Yeah, probably more than 3 months, I would think, in 10 years. Or maybe not.
right?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
right, right, like, it's very generous with PTO, but even after every few years, you could have did like a month sabbatical, right? And so I just was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, wrapping up here. Where can people find you and get involved with Black Girl Sabbatical? And I'll include some links and stuff in the show notes below so folks can find you.
I'm the most active on LinkedIn, so under Latosha Cox, and that's spelled Latosha Cox, Cox. I'm also on Instagram under Black Girl Sabbatical. It's Black underscore girl underscore score sabbatical. Also I'm on Facebook. My in the show notes I'll give my email for you to reach out to me to register for my upcoming workshop. But like social media is where I've been. My website's under construction, so down the line I'll relaunch that. But yeah, social media is where to find me, and there's all kinds of parts of my journey that's on Instagram, like me recording myself doing Reiki in real time. And I asked my Reiki practitioner, like, hey, can we do this? Can I shout you out? Right? Because I never even know Reiki was an opportunity of how to self-regulate the body and get the energy out. So yeah.
Oh, hey, really appreciate your time. I loved chatting with you and going through all these questions. I'll see you on LinkedIn. Let's keep in touch.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to keeping in touch. And again, thank you so much. I am so honored to be your first guest podcast host. So thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so
same.
much. The stars aligned for us
They
this
did.
this month.
It was quick too. I mean, it was meant to be,
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Latasha.
You're very welcome.